Hi, I'm Josh, paddling enthusiast from Northern Ontario. This is the story of one of my many great adventures in the Makobe area. My companion on this trip was my good buddy Gordon. As with many plant-powered adventures, this one got off to a bumpy start. Returning a borrowed trailer to my family, ended up with a broken axle just north of Parry Sound. Yeah, you're not supposed to see daylight there. Thank goodness for family though. My pit crew was able to come and meet me the next day, and with some tools in the back of our trucks, we replaced the axle on the side of the highway, and Gordon and I were back on our way north. A couple of days later, and hundreds of kilometers north, our journey begins on Gamble Lake. This is what I'm going to call cedar plank steak. Okay, Buster, all done. Okay. So tonight's leftovers were top sirloin steak. Best camping trip ever, right, Gordo? Well, it's the end of day one. It ended up being fairly cool. End of the day came beautiful sunny weather, and yeah, I was able to have a nice campfire with Gordon, and the campsite's kind of buggy. It's right on the Lady Evelyn River, so I'm glad that I invested in a new bug shirt this spring. I can tell you that much. So, anyways, drove in from Beauty Lake Road all the way down through here, and ended up trucks parked right there on Gamble Lake. And then I paddled through Chance Lake and down the Lady Evelyn River to this fork here, and I was going to stop at this campsite, but it wasn't super nice, so I pushed on to this campsite, and yeah, it was only about 2.5 hours. So, and tomorrow morning I'm gonna skip this portage and go back this way. Just enjoy being in the boat instead of walking, and carry on up the Lady Evelyn River to Jack's Lake and through Duff Lake and into Florence. Day 2 was a long day of river paddling. The conditions were excellent, and I found myself camped just east of the White Rock Rapids at the end of the day. Today was a long day. Got on the water around 9:45. Had some really nice paddling this morning. The Lady Evelyn River was really calm. I got as far as White Rock Raps. Basically that was just a big slog where I had to get out of the canoe and drag the canoe upriver for about 500 meters. It took about 15 or 20 minutes to get through them all. And I was wet up to my waist by the time I was done, but didn't. I slipped once and fell once, but outside of that, it was not too bad. And Gordon was a good sport. He just stayed in the canoe the whole time. Thankfully, I didn't let go of the canoe. Otherwise, he would have gone for a bit of a cruise down the river, and I don't really know how I would have got it back. After that, went through Jack's Lake and saw 4 river otters. They were pretty interested in us. They actually stayed and sort of watched us and snorted and made a bunch of noise and followed us for a little while. And then when I got into a little bit further along, closer to Duff's Lake, I saw 2 more, and they popped up and were really close. And yeah, I got really lucky. From there, it was a pretty straightforward, easy paddle into Florence. And just as I came into Florence, I saw a moose. Yeah, on the right-hand side, there was a moose that was just busy having a snack, and he ambled off into the woods. But I got into Florence and had an explore around Florence. I started checking out campsites around 2, and I finally found one at 4:30. The first campsite, nobody's been there for years and years. I don't even know where you would put a tent. The second campsite was apparently on a beach next to an old logger's cabin, but unless you camped right next to the cabin, which just looked awful. I don't know where you'd camp. Beach was spectacular though. Sand beach that was probably 300 meters long, and just a short portage between 2 really nice big long beaches. After that was when the real slog started. Beautiful sunny weather, thankfully, otherwise it could have been a really awful afternoon. Paddled on to the very last campsite on the lake, and here I am. It's miles uphill away from the water, so you gotta make a million trips back and forth. There's no grill, sleeping on a 45-degree angle. Just making do. I was gonna stay on Florence for a couple of days, but I don't really like this campsite, so I don't really want to spend the day here tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll see what tomorrow brings. From day 4. I was camped down here. I headed along and sort of checked out this area, and then came up past this campsite. There were still the same campers from last night. Carried along up to here, the 25 meter portage, and did a run. There's a big long sand beach right in here, so I did a nice half an hour run, and the big guy here ran with me for a little while. And then I carried on up all the way up through to Duff, where I stopped for a big snack, and then carried on up, and here I am here, camped at Jack's Lake. So the plan for tomorrow is to head through White Rock Rapids again, follow Lady Evelyn, and hopefully find Shortcut Lake, because this part here is a lot of work and it would just add a ton of time. So anyhow, hopefully I can find Shortcut Lake and head across here, and I'm going to camp somewhere around here tomorrow night. But just tucking into my nighttime treat, a whiskey, Whitaker's Peanut Slab, and brings back memories of Stewart Island and the hikes that I did with Robbie. As always, big guy's not far off. As it turns out, I forgot to make a trip log for this day, but the paddle from Jack's Lake to my campsite on the Lady Evelyn River was a beautiful one. I never did find Shortcut Lake, but did manage to enjoy a nice evening in my hammock, hanging out by the rapids. Well, it was a bit of a wet one last night, and it's pretty chilly here this morning. Thankfully, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, rain has stopped, but as you can tell, I am wearing my full pants, long shirt, jacket, and I'm just cooking some breakfast. Today, unfortunately, is cold breakfast, so the hot coffee is going to have to do the trick. Really nice spot, though. There's a waterfall 30 feet from my tent. The view. Waterfall right over there, and tent right here. Made for a pretty nice sound to fall asleep to. Hopefully I get warm when I start moving and start drinking coffee. Today was a long go. I had a really rough go of it today as far as portages are concerned. Everything was super slippery, super wet. Gordon did awesome. Poor guy. He's flaked out on the floor here beside me. So I am curled up inside the tent. There's a pretty good tarp system set up outside. But yeah, I'm curled up inside the tent and I'm still cold. Every warm layer that I have is on me. I'm wearing a pair of pants, my rain pants, a t-shirt, a long sleeve, mech stretchy, sort of heavy top, this insulated jacket, and my raincoat, and obviously my hood is on. The only thing that I'm not wearing is socks, and that's because they're wet. I actually thought to myself yesterday, I don't need to bring all these clothes. Today, totally made the point that yes, I do. Highlights of tonight include solitaire, killing mosquitoes, trying to stay dry, which we've been doing a pretty good job, and writing out my daily log. Outside of that, it's pretty low-key. Tomorrow I need to get to Gray's Lake because just working through the days with portages between now and when I get out. Unfortunately, I think I need to move every day just to make it easy on the big guy. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how he does tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be another day of a bunch of small portages, or medium-length portages. 250 is the longest one. Some of it could be kind of shallow. One of the lakes might be a bit of a slog. So we'll see. This is what I've been perfecting, the pinch. Trying to kill mosquitoes with the pinch. It's the kind of thing you do when you're stuck in the rain in a tent and bored. That's all for now. Thank goodness it's sunny this morning. It rained most of the night. Everything's still soaked, so I might hang out here for a bit. My view this morning of Lake pretty. I wish that I had gotten up a little bit earlier and could be paddling in this mist. Day 7, we paddled north through Gray's River to Grey Mud and beyond to Gray's Lake. Grey Mud was shallow and difficult going, but the rest of the paddling was fantastic. I'm just taking a campsite tour video of my favorite campsite so far of the trip. I'm on Makobe, and boy are we lucky, what a sight. Hammock set up there in the sun. Looking down at my buddy there. Guy's been getting munched today with the bugs. We had a good swim, didn't we? Day 8 was a shorter paddling day. We headed north from Grays Lake through a 1 kilometer portage to Makobe. Considering I'm traveling solo, this means doubling back on all of the portages. So 1 kilometer is really 3. Gordon, who's 11 and a half at this stage, handled it like a champ. The second I unclipped the leash, he took off running. We got into camp early in the afternoon and enjoyed a nice afternoon hanging out in the tent. We got an early start on day 9 and headed northwest from Makobe through to Trothui. The portages proved difficult to find in many cases. At one point, I ended up paddling quite a distance up a river after missing a very narrow entrance to the portage. Here, we found a beaver dam had blocked part of one of the other portages, which meant paddling across a small beaver pond. As it turns out, this trail over my shoulder was actually a beaver trail, not the rest of the portage. So it was back in the boat and a quick search through the rest of the pond to find the actual end of this portage. Our last full day of paddling saw Gordon and I travel from Makobe Lake through a series of portages and unnamed lakes west to Trothui and then down to an unnamed lake. While the portages in some cases were difficult to find and hard going, it turned out to be a great day, and we found a small campsite on the unnamed lake just in time for dinner. Without question, day 10 was my favorite paddling day of the whole trip. Up early, we headed down Elisa Creek towards Gamble Lake. Elisa Creek is quite narrow and shallow, requiring lots of wading, many stops to cut brush that had fallen across the creek, and a number of short portages to avoid rapids. It was an amazing morning though, and I got to see 2 moose, a large bull in a small unnamed lake, and a cow that poked her head up directly in front of my canoe in one of the narrowest sections. As luck would have it, the camera was buried and both GoPro batteries were dead. So unfortunately, the only photos that exist are the ones from the end of the trip. We made it back to the truck in good time and we headed south for a late afternoon lunch. It was another great plant-powered adventure and I can't wait for more. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.